Okay, this video is called Building Abundance, a Mindscaping Case Study, in which I'm going to discuss working with a client, a man I worked with just a couple of weeks ago. It's a very interesting case because it teaches flexibility when we're working with clients, because we don't always get what we think we're going to get as the solution. It can be something completely different, but you'll understand in a second. I was dealing with a man who had some specific issues around his workplace. He was very good at what he did. He was extremely well trained, but he had anxiety about doing a good enough job. So I met with him for one session online. And what we did was we dealt with the anxiety directly, gave him different ways of releasing the anxiety by working with ego states, subpersonalities. We found the ego states that had the anxiety, the ones that would become executive, meaning they'd be in the foreground of the person's mind when the problem was happening. And we worked and made some changes and got the ego states to agree with each other, and his anxiety dropped quite a bit. But I had a sense there was more to this than just getting rid of the anxiety. So I booked another session 2 weeks later with this client. He reported to me his anxiety was less, and he was more confident in his abilities when working in his specific endeavor. But the anxiety was still there. It was not gone yet. So I determined I was going to work with Mindscaping. Now, Mindscaping, again, creates this internal map that the unconscious mind of the subject presents. You do an adequate pre-frame, there's a bit of hypnosis, and the person begins to imagine they're on this map, and the entire problem and solution are depicted there. And the power in this is the unconscious mind provides the key, the metaphorical key that will solve the problem, because it understands it already. And so we created the Mindscape, and surprisingly, it was nothing like what I expected. The man saw in front of him a big building in the middle of a city, directly in front of him. And in front of the building, there was a small parquet. And in the middle of this little parquet in the city was a statue in the center of a fountain. The statue was on a little platform, and the statue was holding something. I asked him to take a look at what it was, and he said the statue was holding a bowl that had nothing in it. Okay, so we've got something there. And so now I got him to rise up in the air very high and look at the horizon, because in a mindscape, what they see on the distant horizon has to be compelling to pull them forward through and outside of their problem and fix everything. But guess what? The horizon was not compelling at all. It was bleak. His entire horizon was just piles of sand, a dust-dry, hot desert with nothing good there. I asked him, what do you need there? He said, I need water. I said, let your unconscious put it there. He looked surprised and he said, oh, he said, there's a beach now. It's beautiful. There's even a boardwalk and there's a pier going out into the water and there's happy people. I said, and how do you feel about that? He said, I feel great about that. Now I have to make sure he can get from his chair, where he's sitting in the middle of this process, to that imaginary distant horizon. And while we're up in the air, I asked, is there a pathway that you can get there? He said, yes, it goes around both sides of the building and then joins again. We made a couple of other shifts. I brought him back into the chair. He wanted the building to have a mirror-like structure and be smaller. I got him to reach out with his hands and change it. I said, how do you feel about that? I'm calibrating. He felt great about it. And I said, now I want you to spin around and look behind you, which of course, without saying it, is implying everything that is in his past. And he looks behind him and he sees a dense forest. I asked how he felt about it. He didn't feel good about it. It felt like the kind of place you could become lost. And what's intriguing about it is a forest, especially a dense, impassable forest, is a symbol of the unconscious mind. And I said, what do you want it to be like? We agreed that he should push it further away. So he pushed the forest further away, and grass appeared between him and the forest. That gave him some breathing room, and he liked that. He wound up putting tiny little lights through the forest, little twinkling lights that illuminated the paths that he now put there as well. He felt great about this, turned back to the front, and intuitively, I could see there had been a shift had taken place already. I said, check out the statue now and let me know what's changed. He looked surprised. And he said, oh, the bowl has changed. It had turned into a cornucopia, a horn of plenty, like the old Fruit of the Loom ads. And there were flowers and fruit spilling out of this. I said, what does that mean to you? He said, abundance. And he smiled. See, now abundance was pulling him forward to overcome his problems at work. He had a shift immediately. We brought him back to the surface and left all these wonderful changes in place. And now he's got a goal to go after. The statue has changed. The cornucopia is there now instead of the bowl. This horn of plenty filled with flowers, abundance ruled the day. And I said, what else do you need? He said, I want a car. I said, what kind? He said, a red sports car. So we put a red, I think it was a Porsche Cabriolet beside him. And so, with the cabriolet, the sports car, and the spouse there, and friends and family to the sides, immediately his attitude changed towards the problem. He saw that he could get in the car, go around this building metaphorically, and wind up on this wonderful beach and experience the abundance that doing really well in his job would give him. Everything changed. He told me later, when he came out of the Mindscape, he said he'd even seen friends and family members waiting along the path in front of him for him to drive by, friendly people who were there pulling for him. Amazing. Now, this issue might not have been resolved if we stuck with the whole idea of anxiety. Anxiety at work, not doing a good enough job, not working hard enough, which is what it seemed to be. But the Mindscape offered a different way to clear space and speed up the intervention so that he got what he needed instead of getting what I thought he needed. So his performance anxiety at work was not resolved until a clear target state appeared on his horizon, which was compelling and pulled him forward. And the desert was not empowering at all. With the new horizon, everything fell automatically into place. He did the whole thing, exited the Mindscape, and everything had changed.
If you enjoyed that video with Mike Mandel, Mindscaping, ego states, all kinds of hypnotic wizardry, awesome stuff, you're going to find that hypnosis is ridiculously easy to learn inside of the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. You can start for free. You don't even need a credit card. You'll find a link underneath this video in the description. We'll see you on the other side. Get started.